Hey everyone, welcome to Bourbon and Branding. My name is Jason.
I'm Dave.
And today we're going to be talking about logos, why they're important, and we're going to be drinking some Lagavulin 11. Let's dive in. All right, Dave, we're drinking Lagavulin 11 today.
Offerman Edition.
Some good old
right?
Nick Offerman.
Love him.
I know. Ron Swanson is the best.
Well, here's the thing. Speaking on branding, apparently he's, I don't know, he doesn't like to be, or I've heard, I don't know, like, again, no expert on it. I don't know, personally know Nick Offerman, but I've heard he's like, I'm not Ron Swanson. I'm not really exactly like that character. And so, I don't know.
You cannot separate the two. Like if you see
That's
him,
hard.
He was on a show. I think it was like what was it called? Making It, or it's with the same lady, the actress Leslie Knope. I can't remember her name.
Yeah. The woodworking thing. Yeah.
I mean, that's the same guy. That's Ron Swanson.
I know.
Like you can't separate the two.
I know.
So
Nick, if you're listening to this,
yes,
love your work. You do phenomenal things.
And you're the same person. You're Ron Swanson. Sorry.
You are.
You are. So today, we're talking about logos, why they're important, and the different kinds of logos. And we picked Lagavulin 11.
Which is a Scotch, not a bourbon.
It's true, yeah. So we're going a little off-brand, I guess, for us. But that's okay. Every once in a while, you can veer from the path a little bit. But this is for a good reason, because we're talking about logos. We're talking about logos. Well, we're going to be talking about the different types of logos.
Right.
I'm not the expert in this, but there's way more ways of branding.
The topology is really big.
Yeah, and but we picked this one specifically because of how they have married their name to a person. So go ahead and, I don't know, tell us a little bit more about that, Dave.
Well, no, you talked to me maybe a week ago, and you were walking around like one of the fine whiskey establishments or fine liquor. It was a liquor store. Let's just say that. And you were walking around, and you're like looking at the bottles. And your comment, what did you say? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, they don't have any like. So when I think of a logo, I think of a mark. I guess I think of like Nike, or you think of like the Nike swoosh, like that's their logo. And it just dawned on me that I didn't like almost none of the whiskeys that I was looking at had that symbol, that mark.
Right.
And I don't know, I was kind of thrown back a little bit because I was like,
yeah. Do you need that marked? Is it just keeps you up at night?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess just from kind of a lay person or like just a consumer, that's what I think of when I think of a logo.
Right.
I don't know. So.
Okay. So, and that's totally fair. I hear so many people are like, design a logo for me, right? You put the words next to the little picture and they call that a logo. And I think that's that's fine. And there's, not everybody's going to sit around and think about these at all the times, right? So, but the thing about logos or marks, there's like 7 different kinds of them, right? And so, like, in looking at this one, for instance, like Lagavulin, they've typeset their name in this serif font, and you could say, well, that's a logo type, or that's a word mark, right? And they set their word in a certain way, and that's how it's appearing on their bottle. Or you might have a picture mark or a brand mark, and you classic. You mentioned Nike, right? The swoosh. I was looking at where's Blanton somewhere up there, right? And they've attached the horse to it, and this idea that the horse becomes a pictorial element and it's part of the brand. Or a mascot, right, could be, in theory, a pictorial element. That's another example. Or there's abstract marks, like completely crazy ones, right? Like they kind of speak to this idea of maybe the feeling of a business, or maybe some of their mission or their values, or any of those things, like, Pepsi, this idea of this flowing, thing. So that there's an abstract mark.
Right.
The one that I think is the most interesting, and not to unpack all of them, or we could unpack all of them, right? The one that I think is the most interesting is like a logo system, the dynamic mark. This idea that you have a certain set of standardized rules, and they can kind of warp and be altered for social situations, or for maybe something that you have going on with the business, or to represent some other outreach that you have. MTV is a great example of that. So, right, like you see the MTV logo, and it looks, it always is kind of typeset the same, but then it could appear, I'm thinking of ones when I was a kid, like seeing the outer space, the astronaut, or like some of them are animated, some of them are real life, and that's an older example. Nickelodeon did that too. They, their mark was able to kind of shift and evolve. There's just numerous examples of that, but the benefit of that is, right, it's a lot more versatile, right? The logo system really becomes emblematic of the bigger strategic position of a company. They can say a lot without, altering who they are.
Yeah. One that I think of when I was a kid was Volcom. And I still, be shopping and might
the Volcom
see
Stone.
The Volcom Stone. But it was weird though, is the Volcom Stone has, I don't know what the relevance of the stone is. I had
the abstract mark.
Yeah, but it's funny because you would see a particular style of clothing, and even if you didn't see the Volcom Stone, you could almost in your mind place the Volcom Stone there. Like you would say that's a Volcom shirt or whatever. Like they had however they managed it, they had a particular style, whether it was on a magazine or if it was on clothing, or even shoes. I think they had shoes. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of Vans for the shoes. But anyway, I'll give them credit. I'll give them credit for the shoes. And but just everything. Like you could just tell, like that's a Volcom product. Like
right.
But their mark had very little to do with. Like it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't a mountain, I guess, for snowboarding. It was abstract. Like it was just a thing. I don't know. But they managed to marry their style with this mark in such a way that they were synonymous. Like you could, if you saw a Volcom Stone, I could tell you what type of clothing or what kind of person wears that, and vice versa. And I always thought that was just amazing. Like I don't know. I don't know if I ever processed it through the lens of branding, but it was like, you just knew. You just knew that was a Volcom product.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point you brought up, because, when I think about logos and the power and what a mark offers, it's like a promise, right? Or a signature of a promise. So it's funny, like this is, I'm total nerd here for a second, right? We call the signature the lockup between the pictorial mark and the word mark, and how the two interrelate with the logo signature. And that's, again, really nerdy. But I think it's really interesting that people say, oh, what's your brand? It's your logo. When in a lot of ways, the logo is almost like, think of like you're signing a document, right? It's the signature. It's saying, I stand behind these promises. This is that what I say and what I do are accurately represented, and the mission is accurate. There's integrity in what we do, and so therefore the signature, this logo, this mark represents that, right? It becomes this like the signing of a document, and so there's a lot of power in that. It's not meant to carry the whole weight of the brand. It is not your brand. It's not every element in one is the logo.
So what do we have here? What's happening here?
So I would say this is really great. A lot of things. I would say one, there's a word mark, right? A logotype happening here, and they've got a lot of different things going on. But they've really turned this into a mascot brand, right? With bringing Offerman in this way, I think that paying homage to him, they've kind of leveraged him in as almost part of the mark in this particular bottle.
Sure. Well, the Lagavulin 16 is what Ron Swanson keeps in his desk. So
yeah, there's a lot of power there, right?
Yeah.
In him being able to represent that.
Yeah. So this is a logo system. Or this is how would this be categorized?
I think that the systematized in as far as like you're linking the logo type, the word mark to another pictorial element that could be altered with. I mean, you could. I hope they don't put someone else on the bottle, but they could put someone else or put a different social situation. I don't think they're going to.
Yeah.
No, I would just. It's really a word mark.
Well, I mean, I think for anybody, let's say 2015 and later, who knows Ron Swanson, knows Nick Offerman. I mean, Lagavulin and Nick Offerman are like inseparable now, right? Like they're you can't think Lagavulin without Nick Offerman.
And I just think every episode of Parks and Rec when he
right, exactly, like that's
so awesome.
Like you can't separate the two, for better or for worse. I don't know, I mean, Nick Offerman's probably getting the better deal. Well, I don't know. Lagavulin is. They sold me this bottle because of that face.
They've sold you a couple of bottles
true.
because of that face.
That's true. But I don't know. So okay, if you're a business owner, how do you decide if this is the way you should go? Or, I mean, because clearly whiskey is going the logo type route. And
there's
not
a lot
so
of
much,
them.
Yeah, not so much the mark, I guess. Why go this way versus a different way, I guess?
I mean, you could also do an emblem too. You have the Frey Ranch up there, right? It has like an emblematic mark where the logo type and everything are wrapped up in the pictorial element. So that's a way you could go to. Your question though is why go a certain? And I don't think enough companies think about this. They think we need a logo. They don't necessarily think strategically about what type of mark within the whole topology of marks, what type of mark would be appropriate for our product, our consumers. And it's interesting with food and beverage, or especially like this. I used to do a lot of work in the hard cider arena, and it was very similar in that instant shelf recognition, right? What do you want to see? You want to be able to instantly recognize that bottle, instantly recognize the name of that bottle, and then slowly over time, by tasting something that you hopefully love, you build recognition and love and excitement about it and an emotional attachment for it, and then you associate it with that name. I think for certain companies, there's a strategic pathway in having this pictorial mark and then associating it with a certain word, and then over time perhaps even removing the word, and then you're left with just the simple. If you look at Nike, all you have to do is see that swoosh, or Apple, these large legacy brands, right, that they've established themselves over time, and you don't even. And arguably, like Disney writes their name on things, but you don't really need the word Disney on it to know that it's Disney. They have certain marks that they've established.
Or even colors. I mean, like if you see like a certain color blue,
right? Totally.
Automatically, you think Disney. Like if you didn't see the Disney and like, or I think of Disney Plus and like thing, but like just that color blue, that dark blue or whatever it is, like even if they didn't write the word Disney, my mind goes right to Disney.
Yeah, absolutely. So over time, that's a smart shift that a company like that. Yeah, they really own that symbol or that color blue. So that could work. But I think for a lot of these, consumer-based products, these CPG products, I think it makes a lot of sense that you want the instant recognition. You want people to associate you with a certain word. There's a lot of heritage in that too. I'm thinking about the Elijah Craig that's been around forever back there, and this idea that this family's namesake kind of pours into this. Or Blanton's, the idea of horse racing. They typeset it in a certain way, But slowly, maybe they're making the association with the horse and the idea of that being on there as a mascot or a pictorial element. Either way, I think it's really important to think about the versatility, where you're going to place it, the legibility. I think it's incredibly important to think about your audience first and foremost. Who's going to be looking at it, and what type of vertical, what type of product it's going to be on. There's a whole category of different things that we should be thinking about when selecting what type of mark to put on something. But ultimately, we want it to connect with the people who are going to buy.
And so, in businesses, I think sometimes I'm thinking, like, from a small business standpoint, we feel the pressure of needing to come up with that Nike swoosh mark. And where you see a lot of these whiskeys, they don't have that. They were comfortable or confident enough in their logo type to say, this will represent us. So I think there's probably a word for small businesses, or, well, any businesses out there, that you don't have to do all of the things. You don't have to do all 7, right? Like, one of them may fit the bill for what you do. Like, if you're a whiskey company, saying Elijah Craig in bold and in a particular way that catches your eye quickly may be all you need to do. You don't need to come up with a secondary mark or whatever. Because I think sometimes, especially small business owners who are doing all of the branding and marketing, feel the weight of trying to be the creative part of their business, because they just, maybe they don't have the budget, or they don't have the resources or whatever, and then a lot of times the mark that they come up with doesn't actually say anything about their brand. I mean, we were looking at,
or it says everything. You get those ones too.
They try to pack
I want to put everything in that logo. Yeah, they try to pack
everything in. Yeah, we were looking at a website for it was a orthodontist or something, and it had just like a tree or something, and it was, and not to like knock it necessarily, but like it didn't.
If you're watching,
well, I mean, but the point was, it didn't tell you anything.
Right.
It didn't enhance the brand. It didn't tell you anything about the brand. And it almost feels like they felt like they needed an image, like they needed something, like throw something up on the website because that's what should be there, and
right.
And it almost does a disservice to. I mean, just they could have just left the name, and it probably would have done better than having an image that really is irrelevant to what they do.
Maybe just a word mark, a simple, you know what I mean? It could have been as simple as that. And I don't mean as simple as that, because I think the right typesetting is, powerful. It really connects with people and does a lot.
But if you are an orthodontist and you do have just a tree as your logo and you want some more help, check us out in the comments, and we'll
be nice.
We'll hook you up. But
you know what's interesting, though? I was thinking about when you were talking about these symbols, and it's interesting in that Nike, in a lot of ways, like these companies that create these legacy brands, they really start out as they're a commodity. Right, there's a lot of companies that produce shoes. There's a lot of companies that produce computers. There's a lot of companies, and granted, Nike shoes are great. They're well made, and the brand promise probably stands up and sustains that logo system. But it's interesting that the moment you attach a brand to something, the moment you attach a mark to something, and that mark begins to stand behind that promise, like the signature we talked about, the moment that there is more value there, and the moment that people can look past any sort of niche or lack thereof niche and be willing to fork out a lot of money for something that might just be a commodity item. And so brand has the ability, logo, and we'll just say logos for the sake of today, a logo has the ability, because it represents the brand and the signature, has the ability to shortcut and step past this idea of commodity and demonstrate that there is a bigger value in an item, even when there isn't necessarily a bigger value in an item as far as quality maybe, or craftsmanship, or any of those things that we like to claim. It's a perceived value, right? I really do think that. I think that there is a perceived value when you attach a certain brand to it, and that's great. I mean, that's there's a lot of power in that. I just hope that you like to hope that the brands you work with or that you represent or you talk about the quality of what they're offering, or the value of what they're offering the consumer matches that promise.
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. How would you rate the Lagavulin 11? How would you rate their logo system? Personally, Ron Swanson is one of my favorite characters of all time, and the Lagavulin 11 does not disappoint. I really, really enjoy. I know our show is called Bourbon and Branding.
Right.
Lagavulin 16, which we'll probably have on the show at some point, is probably one of my favorites, if not favorite whiskey of all time. Lagavulin 16 is like just a notch, Lagavulin 11 is just a notch under that. But they don't have his face on the 16, so.
It does not disappoint.
Yeah.
But I think you have to like peaty.
That's true.
Flavor. You have to. I know my wife for sure.
Yeah. She says it smells like what is it? Dirty socks or vomit.
One of those things. If you love peaty,
sure,
something peaty,
smoky,
and
campfire.
I think this is phenomenal.
I know, me too.
And in fact, I would go so far.
Are you going to give it a 5? Are you gonna?
No.
Oh, okay. Right.
No.
Okay.
No, there's very few 5s.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
But I would say this is a daily drinker. I could drink this every day, and I would be completely happy drinking it every day. I think it's great.
I would say it's a daily drinker as well, and partly. So here's the catch, though. These are harder and harder to find.
Nick Offerman?
The Nick Offerman.
Okay.
Yeah, the Lagavulin 11 with the Nick Offermans. They're not, and maybe in other areas of the country they're easier to get. Here in Oregon, they're pretty rare. So when you see them, you got to buy them. They're not that expensive. I think they're $55, $60 maybe.
Scarcity.
But you
drives.
Just cannot. Yeah, well, that's true. But you just can't find them very often anymore. The Lagavulin 16 actually is pretty available. Okay. But the 11 is pretty difficult to find. So I would say it's a daily drinker with an asterisk because it's hard to find. So I don't know. I would drink it sparingly, just knowing that it's
nothing to do with the flavor.
Well, no, I know it doesn't have anything to do with the flavor, but it's
you're hoarding it.
Because I can't. I don't know the next time I'm going to get a bottle. So okay. I would drink it every day if I could buy it regularly.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough. No.
And then I'm drinking it
neat.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, neat. All right.
No, I would. No. Why would you put an ice cube on this?
No, I wouldn't. Yeah.
Definitely not a mixed drink. Just neat.
Yeah. I watched the Whiskey Tribe is another YouTube video or YouTube channel that's great, and they made I think it was a Rob Roy. I'm gonna get that wrong.
Roy Rogers.
Roy Rogers? I don't know. One of those. But they used Lagavulin 16, and so where normally it wouldn't be a peaty Scotch at all. They kind of threw that in as a little bit of a twist. And according to them, I haven't tried it, but according to them, it was delicious and amazing. So I don't know. But I'm drinking it neat.
I don't know. I don't think I could do anything but neat with this.
Yeah,
personally.
Well, I think it was the Lagavulin 16 that they mixed, but even this, I would drink it neat.
Okay, so what would you score this?
Tasty score?
What would you score this?
I really enjoy it. I'm going to give it a 4. Because I really do. More and more, I'm liking the peaty whiskeys. I know that that's off-brand for us as far as bourbon goes, but the Scotch and the peat, it's just so distinct. It's I don't. It's just delicious. It's very, very tasty. So I'm gonna go 4.
I really like it. I really do.
Don't break my heart, Dave.
See what he does? I really like it. I think I'm going to go 3. No, don't get me wrong. I really like it. But I just feel like 4 and 5.
That's true.
You know, we rate very
I'm staying
few.
with 4 because I do like it, but I'll respect the 3.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's where I'm gonna stick. It's a 3. It's phenomenal.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe to the channel. And yeah, check out the Lagavulin 11 if you can find it. It is very tasty.
It's a 3.
But anyway.
But it does have a really awesome mascot on there.
It does have a good mascot. Good logo system. Kudos to Lagavulin and Ron Swanson. I mean Nick Offerman. Yeah, thanks guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys on the next video.
Cheers.